Welcome guys. So today we are going to discuss SAML authentication and the Kerberos authentication, right? So first we will start with the SAML. So we will see the SAML authentication. We will discuss the the connection flow, and then we will configure it. We will do some troubleshooting, right? So let's begin. So when we talk about the SAML, so it's like your security assertion markup language, right? For today's activity, we are going to use OKTA to demonstrate it, right? So there are certain components of the SAML which you should be clear of. So first component is identity provider. Okay. So who is your identity provider? So in our case, it is OKTA. So today we are going to use OKTA, your identity product provider, right? So we have a common list of providers like ping id. We have one login, Okta. So Okta has recently gained the market, right? And so on. Duo, right? Then you have service provider. So who is service provider, or you can say SP? So this is the endpoint which is going to initiate the SAML transaction, right? So in our case, it could be global product portal, your PAN-OS GUI, captive portal, right? Clientless VPN, etc. So these are the endpoints who is going to initiate the SAML transaction. Then we have SAML request slash SAML response. So it is the XML encoded messages between the service provider and the identity provider, right? So your service provider is going to do the request, and then you're going to receive the response in XML encoded messages. Then we have SAML bindings, right? So endpoint hooks that dictate how the SP and IDP communicate, right? So HTTP 302 redirect and HTTP post are the common methods for SAML bindings. Then we have SAML attributes. So data returned from the IDP to the SP, that is your principal, your username, group details, right? And then we have metadata. So schema and the endpoint info about the IDP and the SP. So each IDP and SP have their own metadata and register with each other using the metadata. So we are going to see what is metadata, right? So these are the crucial components of the SAML, right? And you should be aware of them. You should be, uh, clear with all these component definitions, right? So what we are going to do now, we are going to configure the SAML, right? And we will, initiate the transactions. We will authenticate the user, right? So before moving to these SAML, let's just have a look on the, the flow chart, how your transactions are being redirected, right? And how your authentication is being performed by the third party, right? Now, Okta is a third party. So earlier what we were doing, we were having the Active Directory inside our domain, right? We were maintaining the user details, and we were using the LDAP for authentication, right? Now, in the growing business where you have many users, right? You have multiple users, your domain controllers are in different regions, right? So now you need a you need a common service, you need a common platform where you can host the entire user details, and you can perform the authentication, right? So now, irrespective of your location, I can do the authentication by using this service, right? So what SAML is offering you, that since um, your users can be anywhere, right? But we have a restriction on your domain controllers because they will be on-prem only, or you might be using cloud-based domain controllers, right? But again, they were, they are restricted to location. So if you wanna, use the, if you wanna define your users in a common place for across the globe, right? So that those users can use the service to authenticate themselves when they will be using your services, right? So this is what Okta is providing right now. So let's have a look on SAML authentication, how it works and how the transactions are working. So what happens? Let's say this is you, right? You are sitting, this is your laptop, and this is the service you're trying to access, okay? Be it Global Protect, Captive Portal, anything, right? So now what will happen? Let's say you have a firewall in place, okay? Now you have initiated the transaction and you would like to access this particular resource. So this is time, yeah. So you have requested to access this particular resource, resource.com, whatever it is, right? And this particular request has been intercepted by the firewall. So your request has been intercepted by the firewall, right? Now what firewall is going to do, if you have configured the captive portal, so firewall is going to redirect your request and it will provide you the captive portal login page, right? So what it will do, it will redirect your request to captive portal. So first you need to authenticate yourself before you can use that particular service, right? So you have done it. Then you will, in the 302, you will receive the redirect URL. Then you will raise the request to that particular captive portal, right? So whatever redirect URL you have configured, right? So your request will go to that particular redirect portal, service provider, whatever it is, whatever redirect URL you have configured. Then you will try to access that particular web page. You will get the web page. You will get the response, or post redirect to principal with SAML request. Redirect to principal with SAML request, right? Now what you will do, that you have requested for that web page. Now you have received another redirect towards the SAML. So this is your SAML identity provider. Let's say this is Okta. So now your request will be forwarded to identity provider because you have again received a redirect towards the identity, towards the identity provider. So you are going to raise a SAML request. So now And in the browser, you can see that the URLs, the address bar, it keeps on receiving new URLs, right? So now your request will go to IDP, that is Okta. Redirect to IDP with SAML request. Okay. So you will get the login page. You have entered the username, password. You have done everything. Then you have clicked on the submit. Your authentication will be done by the by the identity provider. It will do the authentication, and if you have entered the username and password correctly, then you will be authenticated, and we are going to generate and dispatch the SAML response, or you can say the assertion. So generate and dispatch SAML assertion to principal, right? So your SAML assertion will be done, and then you're going to forward this assertion to your service provider. So you're going to post this to your service provider that this is what I have received from my IDP. So you will forward this assertion to service provider. So it contains your result, your authentication result, right? Then your service provider is going to do the validation on this particular assertion which you have asserted, right? So you have forwarded the assertion to the service provider. Now this is going to do the validation, right? It will communicate with the IDP that this particular assertion I have received, right? So it is going to validate this response with the IDP, and IDP is going to give you the confirmation to the service provider. Yeah, this is what I have uh, I mean, I have generated it after doing the authentication. So after this validation, your request will be dispatched to the destination resource which you were trying to access, right? So now you will be able to access the principal, that is your actual URL, whatever it is, http www.resource.com. So this is how the entire transaction it takes place, and this is how we secure our resources. We do the authentication by using the third party, right? Common problems you will notice, your authentication they fails due to time mismatch, right? So you need to make sure that your time is synchronized with the firewall time, right? And your service provider time. So there should not be problem, because if your time difference is greater than 60 seconds, then there could be a problem. So it should be synchronized, right? Okay. So now let's have a quick look on the firewall, what you need to do. So in firewall, you go to device, right? And like you have done the other server profile configuration, similarly, you need to add this, identity provider configuration as well. Now, this is what I have done automatically. You can simply add these details by with the help of the metadata. So what you gonna do is simply just so what you need to do, just go to okta.com. When you go to okta.com, you can sign up for 30 days trial version, right? You can sign up in the Okta for 30 days trial version. Since I was having the domain, I was having everything, so it was very easy for me to do the sign up. For you, if you want to do this lab recreate, definitely you need to create a fake domain and fake email address. So there are multiple services available over the internet which provides you fake email addresses, right? And you can use them. You get the emails as well. You can validate yourself, and you can create your account in Okta, and you can start using the service, right? Since I was having the domain with me, so I can use this trial. So what I've done, I've created my account inside the Okta. Then I went inside the applications, right? And here I just search the app catalog, which is available in Okta. And here you need to simply search for global protect, right? Because we have enabled the SAML for global protect so far. So you can just search for it and you will get this Palo Alto Networks Global Protect, right? So you can add this application. I have already done it, right? So if I go to my applications here, you will see this application is already added. So when you you know add this application, just go to the general tab, right? Inside general tab, you need to define your base URL. What is the base URL for this particular application, which is what is the domain name you are using for this application in your network, right? So I have defined the domain name, right? And then the rest of the things are same. I didn't change anything. I'm using the default login page and all that. Then in sign on, so we are using SAML 2.0, right? And here it is, identity provider metadata, right? So when you click on it, it is going to give you this information. You can right click on it, you can save as this particular file in the XML format, this for this type, right? And then after doing this, you need to import this file. You need to click on import, you need to give it a name, and you need to just import this file, right? And just uncheck this validate identity provider certificate and just click OK, right? So these details will be automatically filled for you, that this is the identity provider, right? This is the identity provider certificate. This is the identity provider SSO URL, which we are going to use, right? And SAML HTTP binding and for SSO request to IDP, both are post, right? So these are the settings. They will be automatically filled for you. You can simply click on OK then, right? Another thing is what you need to do is you need to assign the users to this application who can access this, right? So just go to the assignments and here you can see I have assigned 2 users who can access this particular application. So if you want to create your user base, so you can go to the directory, you can go to the people, you can click on add, you can define the details, you can add the user, right? And you can create your own database inside the Okta, right? And that's it. After that, what you need to do once you have configured the server profile, then you need to go to the authentication profile. You need to create the SAML authentication profile. So I've given it a name, SAML auth, type SAML IDP server profile. Then I have selected my server profile and then allow list all. Okay. So after doing this, I went to the global protect inside the portal. Now I'm using SAML as my authentication criteria, right? So if you see authentication is SAML auth. So I'm using this profile. And similarly for gateway. So for clientless VPN portal gateway, my authentication would be SAML now, Okta. So I'm using Okta now, right? So after doing these changes, you can commit, right? And let's verify how it looks like. So if I will open up this PC, okay. So I'll log in into this PC, then I'll try to connect with the global protect application. Then I'll try to open up the clientless VPN, right? And we will see how our authentication is being done, right? So let's do that quickly. Just and in the CLI, so you can just do one thing, tail follow yes MP log, and you know that for authentication authority.log is responsible. So you can turn on the tail follow yes here, right? And just go to this. Okay, cool. Login into it. Okay. And here you can just go to monitor system and you can apply the authentication. You can apply the filter subtype equal to auth so that you can see the authentication messages here, right? And let's see, let's go to the machine. Okay, so now let's try to open up global protect application here and let's try to connect. So guys, please make sure that your time is correct on both the machines, firewall and your system. If there is a time difference greater than 60 seconds, your authentication will fail with error code 1. Okay, so now you can see that we have been provided with the Okta page. So when we try to connect to our portal, right? So this is the Global Protect login, but we have been redirected to Okta page, right? To Okta. And if you go here, you can see that your request has been redirected to this particular URL here, cloudx-org.okta.com app, this particular IDP URL. Okay, so let's go and let's enter the username and let's see what's happened. Okay, so let me enter the password. Okay, so I have entered the password. Now Okta will do the authentication, then it is going to provide me the the assertion. Then I'm going to forward this assertion to the service provider, and then service provider is going to do the validation on that particular assertion, right? And once the validation is done, I will be allowed to use the service, right? So this is how your SAML works. So you can see still it is working in the background to connect my connection, right? And if you go to Palo Alto firewall, if you see the logs, you can refresh here and you can see what is happening, right? So you can see the time and auth success for username this profile SAML auth, right? So my authentication was successful. Signature SAML signature validated successfully, right? SAML IDP identity, SAML client redirect, right? So client redirected to this particular. So this is how the entire process is taking place, right? If you go to machine now, it will be connected shortly. It is taking longer than expected time. Yeah, so you are connected now. Okay, so your hip has also merged. So this is how we have done the authentication for the user by using the Okta service. So now you can see that the user which I have defined, that is available in Okta. See the domain. Earlier we were using lab.local. Now this is different, cloudx.org, right? So the domain is different now. Okay, so just to give you the differentiation that now we are using a different identity provider to authenticate the user. And similarly, if you check your user to IP mapping, right? If your authentication is going to fail, then you are going to see the error failure messages here, right? So you can see that let me show you the entire process, right? So what happened, received request, pan auth request, SAML create SSO request, right? So SAML message, profile auth, and auth ID, FQDN remote host, right? Then we have created the request, SAML SSO request payload, right? Our destination was this. Okay, so we have created the we have redirected the end user to that particular destination. Then end user has entered the username and the password, right? So you can see client redirected to this particular web page, right? And we were able to see that particular login page of the Okta. Then you have entered the username and the password, right, in that particular web page. Then that particular IDP has performed the authentication and it has inserted the SAML assertion, right? That assertion has been inserted in your request, and then you have forwarded that assertion to the service provider, right? So you can see received SAML assertion, right, from client this. So we have received this assertion, and then this assertion has been validated by the service provider, right? So this after the validation, you can see this successful signature verification, right? So we have done the validation on that particular assertion, right, for the username, and your username was this. So your name ID was rsing@cloudx.org, right? We have verified it, and has valid certificate, succeed to verify signature against the certificate of the IDP. Then assertion signature is validated, and then pan-auth SAML response process. So then we have checked the allow list for this particular user. It was allowed, and similarly you have been given access to it, right? So this is how it works. So SAML SSO authenticated for user, right, from this particular IP address. Okay. So send pan-auth success. So we have successfully authenticated this particular user right here. So if it will fail, you will get the error code here, and then you can do the search on the basis of that particular error code, what is going on, right? So this is the entire transaction which has taken place, right? And if you're gonna do this show user IP user mapping all, so you will see that now we are learning this particular user, right, through global protect. And how we have authenticated this user? We have authenticated this user by using the SAML service, OKTA, IDP, right? Identity provider. Okay, right. Similarly, for clientless VPN, you can log in and you can see. So if I will go to Google Chrome, because we have activated the clientless VPN as well. So if you want to do the authentication for clientless VPN, same SAML profile will be used, right? So you can directly access your portal, https gp.lab.local, right? And you will be provided with your homepage, login. Then you will be redirected to your Okta ID page, right? And let's see whether it is going to pick up the details from the cache or not. Let's wait for it. Okay, so you will be provided with the login page, right? And if you want to see the certificate, you can see the certificate. So certificate is valid. You can see that this is the path. We have got the Okta website. So this is the Okta website. You can see we are at the okta.com, right? Now I will enter my username. Okay. So I'll sign in here, and after the successful sign in, you can also configure the multi-factor. You can have the two-factor authentication here, where you can receive the code on your mobile, or you can receive the Okta push, and from the mobile, if you're going to allow it, then only user will be logged in. So you can do that as well, right? So now you can see in the clientless VPN also you have logged in successfully by using the SAML. And if you want to see now, so you will see that clientless VPN, but your username was unknown. Why? Because you are connected to GP, right? And your IP has been modified. So you need to disconnect to GP first, because your IP has been modified, right? So you need to disconnect. So disconnect from GP and log out from here, because now your IP will be 1.1.10. So your GP IP is 10.10.10.3, but your physical IP is this, right? So we were connected to GP. So let's log in again. And this time it will be done automatically. It will not prompt you to enter the username and password again, because it is single sign-on. So you have authenticated yourself for the first time. So second time it doesn't ask you to enter the username and password again. So now you can see you are successfully logged in here. And if you're going to see the mapping, strange, it is giving unknown. Okay, some sort of problem is there with the user ID daemon. I need to troubleshoot that. Otherwise, it should have given you this, right? So unknown, some sort of problem is there with the user ID daemon. I need to check that. Yeah, it is not working properly. It should be like this. It should have given you this, right? I mean, for Rushant, it should be RC. Okay, so this is all about your SAML, right? And this is how it works. For troubleshooting, right? If you face any problem, so you can check the, your auth3.log. There, if any problem is there, any error code you're able to see, you can simply do the Google and you will get the reason why that particular, authentication is failing, right? So let me just give you the block diagram so that we can have a more detailed discussion now on the SAML. So what is happening? So first step is user accesses resource either through the application. In our case, it was a global protect, or through web browser, right? For clientless VPN, we were using the web browser. Then if no valid cookies found, right? There is no cache information there. So a valid cookie means your SSO was already performed for the first time. So second time it will not ask you to enter the username and password again, right? So a valid cookie means SSO is already complete, right? So if there is no valid cookie, then it is going to redirect you towards that login page, and you need to enter your username and password, right? After that, your service provider, that is your application, be it Captive Portal or your Global Protect, they are going to call. So SP calls authd, authd client library, right? To ask library API to ask for this SAML. And this is what we have seen inside the logs as well. SAML SSO request payload. Create this, right? Because we don't have any valid cookie. Okay. And then your request will be forwarded, right? And authd is going to return your SSO request payload. This is important for troubleshooting, right? If this is clear, then you can troubleshoot the issue. Your auth ID, your IDP, and your single sign-on service, SSO, right? And after this, step number 5. So what happens after this? Your service provider is going to redirect, or is going to use the post method towards that SSO URL. right? We are going to submit this request payload to IDP, OKTA, and your service provider saves auth ID, right? That auth ID internally for future use, because we are going to receive the response, right? Okay, so now what happens? Your service provider, after this, your service provider is going to receive, so step number 7, your service provider receives the SSO response payload in its assertion consumer service location. Okay, and after that, what it is going to do, so your service provider passes the SSO response payload and auth ID, which it has already saved earlier, to authd daemon. Okay, and this is what we were able to verify inside the logs as well. Now this authd daemon, so what authd is going to do, so authd finds the SAML auth profile and uses auth ID to find the SSO payload request. Okay, and then it extracts username, group details, your admin role if you have defined anything, right? Then in response to ID. Okay, then name ID, that is your username. Then we have session index, right? These details it is going to extract. Okay, after this, so this is what happens, right? This is what happening. These are the transactions which are taking place. So after this, you're going to compare the SAML in response ID in response to ID to the original request ID. Okay, you do the comparison. Auth is doing this, right? If there is not a match, we will stop and delete the SSO payload request. If there is a match, we will verify. So if there is if not a match, then we will stop and delete the SSO payload request. If there is a match, then we will verify the digital signature, right? And you were able to see that inside the logs. We are going to verify the digital signature based on IDP cert. Okay. And after this, the next step which your authority is going to perform, we are going to check the allow list. And these are the things you can verify in the logs as well, right? So these are the steps. I'm just writing it down for convenience. So in the logs, you can double check this. So after that, your authority is going to check allow list for the username, right? So with the extracted username, against the SAML auth profile. So in our case, we have configured it as all. Okay. And finally, authority daemon returns the username, right? Name ID, etc. to the service provider, right? And service provider endpoint saves the name ID session index and then lets the user access the requested resource. So this is the entire flow, right? And if you go to firewall, if you go to user ID, so you will be able to see that particular user we are learning from, right? So you can see that username is rsing@cloudx.org, and we were learning it from VPN client Global Protect, and these two, it was clientless VPN. So I'm not sure why it doesn't show clientless VPN here as the data source. It should have shown you that. So this is the user rsing@cloudx.org.in, right? So that's all about the SAML, right? If you want to do the troubleshooting, so for troubleshooting, you need to check the authority.log, right? And inside the authority.log, if you see, that any error code is coming, right? Let's say I'm getting the error code 1. So error code 1 means there is a time mismatch between your endpoint and the firewall, right? So you can check that particular thing. If your authentication is failing, definitely you'll get the reason for that. What is the reason for failing, right? And you have other events as well, which you can see inside the system logs, right? For the SAML. So SAML message parse failure, SAML assertion failure, SAML certificate error, certificate warning, right? Signature validate, auth success, IDP activity. So you can see IDP activity, SAML client redirect, auth success, SAML signature validated. Similarly, if it will fail, so you will get the auth fail, you will get the assertion failure. So these are the failure messages you will be able to see here. Rest of the troubleshooting you need to do inside the authd daemon only. So if you will see the if you will run tail follow yes in the authd.log, right? So there you will see the reason. If your authentication is failing or any challenges there, you will get the error code, and by using that particular error code you can do the troubleshooting, right? So you have the authd id, right? And then you get the response to id. You can do the comparison whether they are same or not, right? And so this is how you are going to do the troubleshooting. So this connection, this entire flow is very much important. If this is clear to you, then you can do the troubleshooting very easily. If this is not clear, then there will be a problem, right? Then you will not be able to understand what is going on, and then there will be a problem. Okay, so it should be crystal clear in your mind before you start troubleshooting the SAML related things. Okay, so now we will start with the Kerberos. We will see the Kerberos authentication, right? So okay, let me go back to the whiteboard. Let me just make some space here. Kerberos SSO, we will do it in another module. We will do it inside the captive portal. We have a dedicated session for captive portal. So inside that particular session, I will cover the Kerberos SSO, Kerberos single sign-on. Today, we will only see Kerberos authentication flow and how to configure the Kerberos normal authentication by using the Kerberos server, right? For single sign-on, we will cover it inside the next module, that is our captive portal. So Kerberos authentication. So if you have domain controller, if your Active Directory is running, so within the same server, this Kerberos is also running, right? So let's have a look how it works, right? So we have Kerberos ticket exchange, right? So you have your KDC, key distribution center. We call it KDC, right? Inside this KDC, you have authentication service and you have ticket granting service, TGS. These two services are running inside this key distribution center, right? So now what happens? Let's say this is your user. So now user is trying to authenticate himself with the Kerberos ticket exchange, right? So step number one, my name is, I am, let's say XYZ, right? And I need a ticket to get tickets, a ticket to get tickets, or we call it TGT, ticket granting ticket, right? So now what will happen? Your Kerberos ticket exchange, what it is going to do, it is going to provide you the response that here is the TGT. If you can decrypt this response with your password hash. So what it is saying, here is your TGT, ticket granting ticket, but you can only extract it if you can decrypt this TGT, this response with your password hash, right? Because already the user has been defined inside the Active Directory, right? So this is running inside the domain controller only. You need not to create another Kerberos server, right? So you have your password. So you will take the hash of that password and you will try to decrypt the response. Okay. Then what will happen? So this is the transaction with authentication service. Now, after decrypting, you got your TGT. Now you will reach out to ticket granting service, TGS. You will say, here is my TGT. Here is my TGT. Give me the service ticket. Give me a service ticket, right? And then after validating you, this ticket granting service is going to provide you the service ticket. And it will say, here is your, just a minute, I need to make some space here. Yeah. So it will say, here is your service ticket. Okay, so once you get the service ticket, so what is happening? User logins to gain the network access. So user logins to gain network access, because rest of the portals, rest of the services will verify you basis on this service ticket. So now you got your service ticket. Now what will happen? Let's say you want to reach out to any particular service now, right? So any network service which is running here, any portal, any application, right? Which was using Kerberos authentication. So what will you do? After getting your service ticket, you will right away go to this portal and you will say, here is my service ticket, right? Authenticate me. Okay. And then this network service is going to reach out to your TGS to validate that particular service ticket. And once it has validated you, your client and server session will be established. So we will have a client and server session. So this is how the Kerberos authentication it works, right? And in single sign-on, Kerberos single sign-on, what happens? You just need to sign in once, right? You just need to log in once, and then with the help of the service, that particular service ticket, you can access any particular internal resource. You will not be prompted to authenticate again, right? So this is how we can do the Kerberos SSO. That is your single sign-on. Okay. Um, let's configure it. Okay, and let's see. Uh, let's verify it, and let's see how it is working. So go to the firewall device, go to Kerberos, and you need to add your Kerberos server. So it is the Active Directory server only. So just give it a name, provide your Active Directory server detail name, I mean the IP address, port number 88. Then just go to your authentication profile and create a Kerberos auth profile, right? Kerberos server profile, which you have configured. Then provide the realm, right? So it will be your domain name, and then user domain, it should be capital, all capital, right? And then advanced all. So after doing this, now go to network, go to portal, and here we will do the authentication by using Kerberos. So earlier we were using SAML. Now we will use Kerberos. So Kerberos, and for gateway we will use Kerberos. Okay. Okay. And just do the commit. So your user authentication, your request will go to the authentication service, right? Then you will be provided with your TGT, right? You will decrypt that TGT by with the help of your password hash. Then you are going to provide that TGT to the TGS ticket granting service to, and you will ask for your service ticket. Then that TGS is going to provide you the service ticket, and then with the help of that service ticket, you will reach out to the the end resource, and that end resource is going to verify your service ticket, and you will be granted access. Okay, so this is how it works. For SSO, We will see it inside the captive portal, right? We will cover it inside the captive portal. So okay, close it. Now go to that particular machine again. Okay, so now just log out. And if you log in again this time, now you won't be redirected towards the Okta. You will get the login page, enter the username and password, right? So now we will use the Active Directory credentials. So let's see. So your authentication has been done and you have been granted the access, right? So let's log out and you can just simply go to this particular CLI here. Yeah. Now just run tail follow yes. MP log and authd.log, right? And you can see that Kerberos profile was evaluated. Authentication was successful, right? Let's do it again. Uh, let's go to incognito mode. HTTPS gp.lab.local. So just provide your name here. Then your credentials. And you can see here, right? So let me show you that. Kerberos Auth trying to authenticate. Kerberos Auth username is this, Auth ID, right? And then we have received it through Global Protect. Okay, then for authentication, authenticating user, right? Find auth server ID vector for Kerberos Auth. Then we have used the Kerberos 5, right? KRB5 authentication. Username is this, principal name is this. Okay. And your authentication was successful. So we have successfully authenticated your user by using the Kerberos server profile now, right? For SSO, we need to do few, we need to configure few settings for Kerberos SSO. So for your internal portals, what you need to do, you need to just, what you will do, you will just sign in once and then you will be granted access to all of your internal resources, right? They will not ask you to authenticate yourself again and again. Okay, so you can see now I was able to log in, right? Similarly, you can check here, you can see the mapping. Yeah. So clientless VPN, and this was the user identified. Okay. Similarly, You can log out from here and you can authenticate yourself in the global protect application. So now you will see that you will not be redirected towards the Okta, because now we are not using the SAML, we are using Kerberos. So you are trying to connect and you are connected. So it didn't ask you for username and password because you have already entered your domain credentials and when you have logged in into the machine. And with the help of the credential wrapper, it has provided the details to the client, and client has done the validation. You can see that we have done the validation, and this time it was global protect application. And if you want to verify that, if you run this show IP user, so here you will see this time we are learning this user from global protect, right? So this is the user to IP mapping as well. So this user has been mapped with this particular IP address. Previously, this user was mapped with this particular IP address, the original one, right? Because we were using clientless VPN, but now it is actual GP application. So this is the IP address which has been assigned to this particular user from RAS manager, right? So again, if you want to do the troubleshooting, you will use the auth.log file. You will see, why your authentication is failing, right? So generally, in case of Kerberos, you don't get issues, but yeah, you get issues in the case of Kerberos SSO, single sign-on. So we will see that particular thing, how Kerberos single sign-on we can configure, right? And how we can map the service profile with the service. So we will see all of those details, right? And then we will move further. Okay, so that part I'm going to cover it inside the captive portal because we will be using the captive portal for that, right? So there are few terminologies which you need to understand. So it will be well, I mean, I'm going to explain that particular thing inside the captive portal. Okay, so that's it. Almost we have covered everything inside the, inside the authentication. So for authentication inside Palo Alto network firewalls, in PAN-OS, we have only one daemon, that is your authd, right? And you can check your daemon. You can check the logs of the daemon. You can check the system logs for, you know, system logs for auth, right? And you will be able to see, so you can see Kerberos auth, it was successful, and previously it was SAML auth. So whatever failure, any message you are able to see, you would be able to see that here. Okay, so these are the logs which are important, and rest of the details you will be able to see inside the auth.log file. If you get any error code, and if you do that particular if you simply just do the Google of that particular error code, you will be provided the response. Okay. Okay, so that's it, and we will check the Kerberos SSO inside the captive portal, right? And then we will do some sort of troubleshooting as well, and we will see the packet flow of the SSO, right? And then we will see how much troubleshooting part we can cover in that particular captive portal module. Okay, so it is complete, and in authentication we have successfully discussed the local authentication, your radius authentication, your TCAX authentication, your LDAP, Kerberos, SAML, right? Now the only thing is your Kerberos SSO. So this is what we are going to discuss now. So in authentication, when you have this Kerberos, single sign-on option, so we need to import this key tab. So we will be creating this key tab inside the domain controller with the KT pass utility. So we will do that. We will import it, and that then that particular service will be authenticated without providing you prompt for the username and password. So it will be the transparent authentication. So we are going to discuss that. Okay. That's it. Okay, let me stop the recording now.